Don't show the video yet, Gav.
No.
Hello and welcome to another Legal Corner. Gav, thank you as ever.
No problem, thanks for having me. And what a venue, by the way.
Yes.
In case you hadn't realised, we are not legal experts, which is why we've teamed up with White Dalton Motorcycle Solicitors to bring you free legal advice.
Why I genuinely went downstairs to the toilet and Gav has decorated the table with some animals.
Yeah, with some animals. Well,
Is this today's topic, Gav?
the topic for today is what happens if you come a cropper and you hit an animal. Okay, because believe it or not, this happens more than you'll care to learn about. We get quite a few phone calls at White Dalton about I've hit some wildlife.
I mean, I'll just quickly say my Mossy story. So I can't remember if it was on 44 Teeth, but I will say anyway, Mossy just collected a Suzuki from Suzuki, riding back at night, late at night, or it was dark anyway. He had a brand new Suzuki and he had a brand new helmet on, which is a bit he was concerned about, obviously. Brand new sprayed helmet. And a deer ran out, hit him. Thankfully he was okay, relatively okay.
Yeah.
But the bike was mashed, his helmet was mashed. He's like, well, what'd you do?
Yeah. In his case, unlucky. Yeah, no, it's a deer. It's a deer. I think.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. Yeah. Generally speaking, if you hit wildlife, okay, so you're not talking about domesticated animals. You are talking about your badgers, your deer, your muntjac deer, and I mean, round where I am, South Bucks Way, and on the way into the office, loads of them.
Yeah.
Loads. You know.
What's a muntjac deer?
Muntjac, you know,
muntjac.
Yeah, those little, they're like 2 foot tall, aren't they?
Bambis.
Yeah, like little Bambis. Yeah,
Yeah.
You're not talking about your proper
stacks.
deer with your with
Yeah.
your antlers. You know, it's an accident in its truest form. You know, unless the animals are kept, because there are some royal estates dotted around the country, and if they happen to keep those animals, there might be a legal obligation on them to make sure they're properly fenced in, they've taken care to make sure their animals don't escape and then cause...
So they're owned.
They're owned, yeah, that's right, yeah. And what you'll find is normally domesticated animals that are owned, and domesticated animals will have people that are responsible owners.
Yes.
So whether they insure them or they are personally liable for any acts or omissions that results in the animal leaving, you've potentially got someone to sue. Now, I'm going to play a video, okay, but we're going to edit it quite heavily because it doesn't make for nice viewing, okay? I'm a dog owner myself, okay? We've got Winston at home, brilliant dog, and it really saddens me to watch videos like this. But it's a big old bike, it's a GSA, so you'll do your magic, no doubt. Biker's doing nothing wrong, you know. Biker's out enjoying his weekend ride with some friends, and this errant dog runs out and causes an accident. Now, I've got to say, Biker, very lucky, didn't bounce off that stone wall. Yeah. I mean, he took a good old chunk out of the tree.
I mean, thankfully he was steady away, wasn't he? You can tell he was a steady rider. He's not doing anything.
Yeah.
You know, I would have gone for the other side, miles.
Well, yeah, and also I think maybe there's a lot to be said for the big old bike he's riding. You know, you've been on something like a Panigale, you've been on something like a Millie.
Yeah.
You're going to come off, you know, not so well. Interestingly, I don't think there was any pet insurance, okay, on the dog, on the puppy.
So that will affect the outcome of a legal case
yes,
as well? Really?
Very much so. Yeah, very much so. Because if I actually give you the bare bones of the legal case, you could potentially go after the owner in common law negligence to say, you owe me a duty of care, you've let your dog roam without any safeguards in place, and that dog has ended up on the highway and caused a harm, therefore you're liable. Or you have to look at statutory provisions like the Animals Act. The Animals Act is horrible, okay? Horrible bit of law, really badly drafted, hasn't been changed. I think people have been crying out for it to be changed over the last decade or two, but we are stuck with it. So these types of cases, really difficult to bring home unless you can prove,
But so essentially you're suing someone who's just lost their dog as well?
It's doubly bad, yeah, absolutely.
But at the same time, you've got an injured bloke
Who's done nothing wrong.
and he's done nothing wrong,
Yeah.
and he's got an expensive bill for his bike.
Yeah, and in fact, that's a really good point, because this is where having insurance can sometimes take the emotion out of it. You've got an owner there who's just had their puppy run over.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a member of the family. You know, we are a dog-loving nation. It is a member of the family, and just to really kick you when you're down and grieving over the loss of an animal, a pet, you get a letter from a solicitor saying we're going to sue you. So having insurance actually can really take the heat out of it. And what I mean by that is you say, right, I'm not dealing with it, give it to my insurance company, they can sort this out, okay? And insurers, let's be honest, they're there to make a profit. You know, they haven't got the same emotional attachment. Now, in this case, I don't think there's any pet insurance, but the home insurer actually looked to deal with the case. So, I mean, us lawyers, I remember when the letter of claim went out on this, you really draft it carefully, because we've got dogs, you know, we love dogs. You are writing to a dog owner to say, we're really sorry, you represent the biker, we killed your dog, but here's the claim. Home insurer dealt with this, so, you know, it took the heat out of it somewhat. I dealt with another case, and it wasn't the home insurer, it was the pet insurer.
Right.
So there are some really good pet insurers out there, and when I spoke to the handler in this case, in fact, I'll tell you what happened. Chap was going down the road, lady was walking her dog on the pavement, but there was a hedgerow between the two of them.
Yeah.
No one knew, but there was a deer in the hedgerow.
No one knew apart from the dog.
The dog smelt the deer, and the dog did what the dog would do and just went for the deer. Was off the lead because the owner didn't realise there was any need for him to be on the lead, you know, quite an obedient dog. Biker's going down the road, next thing he knows, a deer's run out in front of him, followed by a dog, and he's collected both of them. Yeah. Sadly killed both of them. I mean, mercifully, there and then. You know, there's nothing worse than seeing the dog lying on the floor, you know, whimpering in pain. And actually, he was on a big old Honda. He says to me, if I'd been riding a sports bike, it'd be game over for me. You know, it was that traumatic an accident. So the Honda took a good old battering, but good old Honda, as they do, you know, took the blow, went down. The pet insurer in that case said, look, hands up, you know, no dispute. The dog should have been on the lead. The dog wasn't. The dog wasn't under control when it ran after the deer. And he said something quite interesting. He said the highest value cases that we deal with aren't we're a pet insurer, we've got to pay for an operation. It's actually when you knock off a cyclist or a motorcyclist. Yeah.
Wow.
I think he said actually that the highest value case they had was a cyclist. So dog's run out and something's happened and they've got a liability and the cyclist was really injured. So yeah, you can bring a claim. Can be very tricky to do so, worth gathering lots of evidence early. Videos like this, just, you know, they're worth their weight in gold, albeit they are horrible things to view. But yeah, there can be a claim there.
And just quickly as well, while we're talking about the law is an ass, you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to the is it the Animals Act? When there's certain animals that you have to stop.
The Road Traffic Act. Yeah.
So there's certain animals you have to stop or acknowledge that you've hit, and yet some you don't have to.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. It's probably a little bit outdated, but no, you make a good point. If any of the viewers here, if you're unlucky enough to hit an animal, there is a list of animals which you are legally obligated to report, either to the owner, someone there, and say, look, I'm really sorry I hit your animal, or if no one's there, you need to go report it to the police.
Yes.
Okay? The list is horse. I mean, if you hit a horse and ride away, you're doing well. Cattle, ass, mule, sheep, pig, goat, or dog. Any of that list.
But no cats.
No cats, no hamsters, no guinea pigs.
That's animalist, isn't it?
Well, it is a little bit. And if you're a cat lover and someone can just run over your cat and leave the scene, well, yes, the law says they don't need to stop and give any information. But any of those under Section 170 of the Road Traffic Act, you have a legal obligation to report the accident. If you don't, you're guilty of an offence of failing to report. Okay? In fact, that brings me on to the New Forest. Have you ridden around the New Forest?
I have. Lovely place, yeah.
Lovely place. Yeah. I went there 10 years ago on a bike. And what struck me, well, thankfully nothing struck me, but what struck me was the surprise, at seeing just animals, just strewn everywhere across the road. And actually, I did some digging. So there was The 1217 Charter of the Forest. So we've got some legacy law.
1217 as the year 1217.
Yes, yep.
And this still happens. This is
Yeah,
still.
you've got the legacy of these really ancient acts that actually allow people to graze animals on common land, just in the open. Okay, I mean, if you try doing this, let's say you live in Surrey. Chris Eads lives in Surrey, doesn't he?
He's actually Hampshire, but he says.
Oh, is he Hampshire?
But he says he likes to live in Surrey.
In Surrey, yeah. Well, he's very posh, isn't
Yeah.
he? He speaks like
Yeah.
this from Surrey. So if you own a bit of land in Surrey and you decide to keep animals there, you can imagine the carnage that would be unleashed if you just let them wander onto the
Yeah.
M25, you know,
Yeah,
or the
yeah.
A3.
Yeah.
So, but if you go to the New Forest, you'll see animals grazing openly on common land, and actually the duty's on you as a road user to take care because they are allowed to graze in such a manner. You will go around the bend and see 3 cows just meandering across the road.
I mean, I think really you've got to use your common sense during, certainly in the New Forest, in environments like that. You've got to use your common sense. If you don't, and you ride or drive like a dick, then you deserve everything you get because it's not the place to be hooling about. And I think is it all 50s now anyway? Most of it, or 40s?
Yeah. I mean, I've ridden in today. I've seen 20s.
Yeah.
I mean, truthfully, I've ridden around the New Forest. You couldn't go more than 20 miles per hour, despite the speed limit, because of the amount of animals.
So yeah, it's not really that surprising, but
Yeah. So if you're riding around there, or you haven't been, go. It's beautiful, but do so slowly because you can easily come a cropper there. Well, let's hope we don't hit any animals.
indeed. Thanks, Gav.
No problem. See you on the next one.